Hello, everyone. I've been teaching music professionally now for over 30 years, and along the way, I have come to learn quite a number of lessons as a teacher. I had some really great music mentors when I was growing up, but I didn't really have much in the way of anyone advising me or guiding me as a teacher. What I'm going to do in this video is share with you some of the experiences and oversights that I've made along the way, in hopes of helping you avoid some of the same scenarios that I experienced, whether you're about to go into teaching or perhaps you already are a teacher. I knew I had a love for teaching from the very beginning, and my passion for it was very clear. However, the first issues really didn't start to arise until I was a senior as an undergraduate student at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. At that point, I started taking on more and more private students, but I was also getting offers from other schools to teach for their programs. I was so enthusiastic, I didn't want to say no to anyone. And as a result, I ended up teaching for 6 different schools at one time, Monday through Fridays, and then having my own private students on Saturday and Sundays, and then having gigs on those evenings usually. After about a year of doing that, I got to the point where I was so burned out that I nearly just quit entirely from music altogether. What actually saved me was I moved cross country, so I went from having a ton of students to 0, and I could rebuild and use the wisdom that I'd learned to avoid being in that position again. So if you're teaching and you realize that you're about near capacity or maybe even slightly over, don't take on more students. Make sure that you focus on the quality of your teaching. It's better to have fewer students and maintain a really high level of quality of teaching and not be burned out than to take on a ton of students. It doesn't do any service to you. It doesn't do any service to the student. And it's best to avoid that. If you're in a position where you're already maxed out, get a waiting list. If you have someone reach out to you and ask for lessons and your availability and you're maxed out, just tell them I have a waiting list. If you would like, I'll sign you up and I'll let you know. That's the best way to do it, because you don't want to sacrifice or compromise the quality of your teaching. Let's talk about contracts for a moment. A long time ago, I had a school reach out to me and I agreed to teach for that school. And there was no written contract. Everything was verbally arranged and agreed upon. And what ended up happening is that they didn't honor the agreement. They paid me a lot less than what they told me they were going to pay me, and I had absolutely no recourse. But make sure that you get a written contract, that you read the contract, you understand all the parts of it, and that if something is not addressed adequately, that you mention that, you speak up about it. Another example is if you think that the school is taking too much of a cut or not paying you adequately, speak up. In some cases, the school will work with you. And if the school is unwilling to do so, walk away and find one that will. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you've allowed yourself to be taken advantage of. You think you're getting underpaid for what you offer, and that's only going to breed resentment in the end. So there's no advantage to being in that position at all. I've been there. I'd also be weary of teaching for any school or program where they guarantee a weekly lesson. However, you're paid only for the number of lessons taken in that given period or month. Not a good place to be. I would certainly recommend teaching for a school where you're paid regardless of whether the student shows up or not. They're paying you for your time, and that's it. Because if you don't have that, you're going to have students who are not going to respect your time and your expertise, and there's no incentive for them to be responsible. What I've come to find works best for me over the years as a private teacher is to have the student meet with me for an initial lesson. That initial lesson's paid for up front before we meet. And in the event that the student proceeds and accepts that time slot, then it's a monthly tuition. It's a monthly commitment, and the student pays for each month in advance. I don't recommend receiving payment in the middle of the month or at the end of the month. In fact, I don't even recommend teaching the student until you have received payment. And have the student understand that if you don't receive payment, that time slot can go to someone else. I don't recommend getting paid in the middle or the end of the month. In fact, I recommend not even teaching the first lesson until you've received payment. I have had students in the past where I didn't do it that way, and some of them would show up for 1 or 2 lessons in the month, and then in some cases completely disappear and never pay me for anything. And in other cases, they would show up, pay for only 1 or 2 of the lessons, and then even though they told me they understood that it was a month-to-month agreement and that they were actually going to be paying for that time slot, not for the lesson itself, they still did that. So get paid up front. Every school that I've ever taught for, every school that I've ever attended, got paid up front before anyone set foot in the classroom. So there's nothing strange about that. The last thing I want to mention is being wary of any services online that charge you a fee just to put you in contact with a prospective student or client. In many cases, they don't even verify the legitimacy of those people. They don't even guarantee you're going to receive a response. In the cases where you don't receive any response, they don't reimburse you for the fee, which can be upwards of $20, even $30. I've come to find from my own experience that maybe 1 out of 30 leads ever materialize. So you got to figure out if that's worth it to you. My recommendation is to find a service, if there is one online, where they do book a time and that service actually takes money for that time and will pay you a percentage of it. That at least gives you a little bit of protection. But if you're in a situation where you're just going to be paying for leads and you don't even know if they're real or fraudulent, I would stay clear of any sites like that. I hope you found the video helpful. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comment section below. Perhaps you're a teacher and you might actually have some advice for new teachers or beginning teachers that I might have overlooked. If you like the video, please click on the like button. And if you really like the video and you want to be notified of future videos, please subscribe to the channel. Best of luck with your teaching endeavors. We'll see you soon.